what I see?
I see a beautiful hamburger.
I bet it's a clue.
Yeah, I bet.
We'd better memorize it.
I don't think we'll have to memorize it. The hamburger's winning.
Boy, my mouth's watering. Let's go.
Come on, boys and gals. Let's have a barbecue.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday!
Wacky fun.
Whatever that old man was doing to that steak was a travesty.
Seriously.
Yeah, it was so burnt. Some people like their meat well done.
You got to reconnect your Facebook, bro.
Yeah, I was trying. It's struggling.
What'd you do, man?
I don't know. I don't know.
Welcome, Sunday.
Exactly.
It's another fun episode of the Creativity Cookout. This is number 6. Welcome, guys. You know, I'm here about 1/3 of the time, I think.
Yeah.
Yep,
Well, hey,
that's
that's pretty
me.
good considering it's
1/3.
episode 6.
Right, yeah. So that's twice.
It's not a bad percentage.
Two
Not too bad.
of the 6 times I've been able to drag my butt out of bed and get here. No, actually, so
It's 3. It's 50% if you count the pilot episode.
right. I
there you
forget a lot that we have this thing going.
It's
I
new. It's a
yeah,
small channel. It's all right.
No, it's like I just forget things because I forget to put it on my calendar, and I'm like, wait a second, it's like 6:50, and aren't I supposed to be doing something? And then you'll send me the link, and I'm like, yes, that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's what it was.
But we don't have a lot of days off together with Beth working, so Sundays sometimes gets we do church, we do lunch, we do other stuff, and then it all.
We already got people joining. Say hello to the chat. Hello, chat.
Eastland.
Oh,
Welcome.
welcome.
We're gonna talk about stuff.
We're going to talk about stuff. We're going to talk about stuff we're
and
creating.
things.
We're going to talk about stuff going on in the world.
We're gonna talk about eating bugs.
Talk about eating bugs.
I
I almost got eaten today. I was playing D&D, and an owl bear actually ate me.
Oh God.
No.
I felt like
Those
Samuel.
owl
I want to
bears.
say that like Samuel L. Jackson. They ate me. An owl bear ate me.
Mother effing ate me.
I saw a countdown today of his favorite characters.
Uh-huh.
You won't believe who he got number 1.
Who's that?
The character from Long Kiss Goodnight.
Okay, that's a decent character.
That was
Oh,
his,
man.
That was his favorite. Yeah.
No. It's gotta be
I love that
snakes
movie.
on a plane. Look at all these snakes on this mother effing plane.
Well,
Love
he
that
put all
movie.
of the he put all of the movies he did with Quentin Tarantino together, and then he did Mace Windu's second, but that was his favorite. He had some great lines in that movie. Great line. A great character.
Yeah. Crank
He
stuff
was
is fun.
just a dirt bag, but he was like a heroic dirt bag. So that was just a great character.
Yeah, I like heroic dirtbags. I actually just released a video on my YouTube channel. Run over and check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But yeah, it's about anti-heroes. Dirtbags sometimes do good things, and
But they're not anti-heroes. That's the thing. It's
Yeah, not necessarily anti-heroes.
right.
Anti-heroes are like the unconventional type of heroes that don't share the traditional sense of morality, but they do the right thing for alternative reasons. And as a Calvinist, I feel like that's any hero, really, any human hero. It's not Jesus.
Well, granted, yeah.
I like how he says, as a Calvinist.
As a
It's
Calvinist.
like,
just-
I bet
you know,
you
you
only
got-
read the KJV too. KJV
No,
too,
yeah.
right?
Yes, be.
All right, yes. I'm an
As a Calvinist, I believe but as a Calvinist, you believe they were always going to be that thing. So there you go.
Yeah, gotta emphasize the total depravity though.
From the creation of the world, they were going to be this thing. So there you go.
Yeah, eternity past.
Two lips, not one. There you go.
Tulips. Tulips. I am.
I may or may not know a little bit about that stuff. Just saying.
This stuff's boring.
CJ, can you hear us okay? We'll see if we lose. We might lose CJ at some point.
No, that's okay.
She's dealing with some shoddy reception out there.
Yeah.
But
well, so what projects are you guys proud to talk about?
Well. I'm working on something.
CJ was talking about.
Yeah, I hope CJ, feel free to jump in at any point here. We don't know if you can hear us right now. But yeah, I'm working on the Diaspora universe. You guys haven't heard of it yet. It's still in pre-production.
Oh, okay.
Pretty excited about it. I'm putting together a creative team right now. Meeting with somebody tomorrow. I don't want to say on air who just yet, but it's exciting stuff.
Ah, cool.
I'll just say that. It's basically written in the same vein as Starship Troopers, in that it's fake propaganda that's lampooning the what it's supposed to be propaganda for.
Right.
And I think it's hilarious and it's fun, and I think people are really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually got a supervillain that controls the press in my world.
Ah.
His name is White Noise, and
White Noise.
White Noise, yeah. But
you want to tell us about yourself, T-Bone? We haven't had you on the show yet, and curious about what you're working on too.
Well, currently I have in production and also in campaign on Fund My Comic, a comic by the name of Community Service. The arc is the Escape from Little Bighorn, and this is the first. It's called Preambles, but basically it's about a parallel world where America has lost its way, but it's also a parallel world where people are powered, and so it's America's basically created made power people a underclass, through constitutional amendment and a new federal organization. But the man that used to oversee the powered people is coming out of retirement and trying to restore things. And it's a pretty great story. I'm very proud of it. I just need to get in front of more eyes.
Okay. Sounds like an X-Men sort of premise there with the
government
cracking down on the.
Yeah, it's similar. The FERA, they're called expressors, so it's called the Federal Expressor Regulatory Agency. It's got its own federal badge and everything, and they essentially there's three options you have if you're a powered person. You can live unpowered as a citizen, you can work for the government, or you can be a criminal by using your powers without approval. And so this is about a group that gets started to create a fourth option, which is community service, to be able to work your debt off of society and return to society. But somebody doesn't want that to happen, so they're marked for death. But this man who's everybody's forgotten, who thought he was injured and retired, has been behind a desk job for 50 years, and now he's going to intervene on their behalf. It's a pretty stirring story. It's got a good trailer. I'm very proud of right there on the campaign. But yeah, awesome. It's a whole universe though. It's just the beginning. I'm just beginning the story. But this is the on ramp to the world, basically. I'm very proud of it, and hope people take that on ramp and enjoy the journey. So
Awesome. Sounds pretty cool. We'll have to check it out. Maybe we'll look at the trailer later.
okay,
Yeah. I always like
Yeah,
seeing a cool trailer.
absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I talk about things you like that be that are created. My favorite book in this whole entire corner of the internet is Hybrids, which is Luke's property. So
Well,
been-
thank
That's
you
the
for
one
saying
I-
that.
so
That's the one I believe that you said you started writing it before the alternative timeline that we currently live in.
I did, yeah.
I want to hear about that.
So it was supposed to be escapism, and so in this world that I created, aliens were real, and it was a known government cover-up because of high players were actually ran by the ancient gods and whatnot, and there's corporations are in charge of things and human trafficking and pretty much all of the conspiracies that we kind of indulged ourselves with prior to my nap, prior to 2021. I had infused into the story, and then I wake up and all that crap is real. So now it was escapism, now it's social commentary. So I guess it is what it is, right? I mean,
yeah, when I
It is what
started
it
my
is.
book, it was during the when I started my book, it was during the lockdown, the 2020, and this is when my book is set. And I didn't mean for it to be social commentary either, but I finished the script, and then about 2 or 3 years on, it is social commentary. So
So, Bunny,
You know,
you've got a
it is-
really cool trailer. Like, I really like your trailer. Like, I think it's like total BA.
cool.
Let's check it out. Let's check it out here. I'm gonna try and find your trailer so I
check it
could
out.
minimize the time I'm scrolling here.
Yeah,
Sorry guys, give me a minute here.
no problem.
No offense to boomers out there, but I'm boomering it up again. I'm an
Well, it's on the
insulted.
campaign at the very top.
There's your campaign. Okay, I'm getting on your campaign page.
hmm
Let me follow the link you gave me here.
All right.
So, Luke, you said you were literally just following conspiracy theories when you started writing Hybrids?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I was just working on conspiracy theories and tying them into this universe that I'd created that all spins back from. So, you know how, like, there's that one guy with crazy hair? That everything is aliens? Points everything back to aliens?
Yeah.
Well, kind of like I was like thinking, well, what if I was him? And I was trying to tell this story, but even aliens point back to this creature called the Nephilim. So everything is the Nephilim, right? Everything is Genesis chapter 6. And so I just kind of started building this universe based off of that, with all this fun little stuff, little things in there. And then I created a story based around human trafficking and these conspiracies and kind of how real life people, if like, what if it happened if just everyday people started realizing that these things they thought were not real were actually real? Like, what if the evidence started falling in their laps and they had to respond to it, all because they're trying to save some family members? And that is what happened. So we play this out, and it kind of lays the bedrock for this pretty massive story that I'm telling. We've got 3 more issues that we're working on that will be done this year, and then which I gotta get on those, get those finished. But we've got 2 days left on the current campaign. I've got to get the book, the final book, the role playing game finished and get that out. And then, but so we got 3 more, and then after that, I'm trying to decide on what the next arc is going to be. I have 2 different arcs that I want to work on, and I'm just trying to decide which one it's going to wind up being. probably going to wind up talking with Piper and letting her help me decide on what it's going to be. So, yeah, pretty exciting stuff doing that. But yeah, it wasn't supposed to be.
Nice.
Wasn't supposed to be real.
No.
This stuff, right? Like the idea of spacecraft. Now that we know that there's unidentified flying craft out there that the government doesn't know anything about. I don't know if their admittance of that makes this story more or less intriguing.
Yeah.
But I guess, Bunny, you could say, I mean, from an outsider's perspective on it, you don't know the next step, the next thing that's happening. So you've really followed this as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how we got connected.
Yeah.
Is through this story. And
yeah.
Does our current reality make it less intriguing?
It actually, yeah. There's a lot of concepts in there that definitely seem to have undercurrents about what's going on right now. It does. Like in my book, I have a secret organization that's behind the federal organization that's not even in the government. It's like a para-government organization that seems to be behind everything. It's moving the federal organization like a sock puppet. So yeah, this whole secret cabal of people moving behind the scenes does seem to gee in the hall with things we're seeing. In your world, it's happens to be one gentleman behind most of it who
seems to be
George
Yeah.
Soros?
no seems to be
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a little scarier than George Soros, I'd say.
emphasis on the seems to be
Hmm.
he
These are
seems
what
to
they
be
seem.
the one behind it all.
Right.
I love a good
right.
twist.
Seems to be.
I got the trailer up here. Let's put this
Okay.
thing up here.
Yeah, awesome.
Pop it on the screen there. There it is. Let's go
America.
ahead and have a look.
Let's do it.
America. Let me full screen there.
Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it the gentlemen wish?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Are you having trouble with your
What
internet?
would they have?
I might be,
I might have to, I can probably do it on mine.
Is life so dear, or peace so sweet?
Yeah, it's pretty high def.
got a little lag. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Here, let me here. Let me do this.
Yeah, Luke's got it straight wired now, so
That's to be just at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty. Of course, others. As for me, give me liberty or give me death.
That is a really cool trailer.
It really is.
thank you. Yeah, it's Patrick Henry by Orson Welles, via Orson Welles. So yeah. Hey, Jesse Black, what's up, dude?
Got a fanboy there.
Yeah.
As Orson Welles?
Well, Orson Welles did that speech back in his radio days, and that's what I
Okay.
used as the voice. Because I mean, I could pay for somebody on Fiverr, but when you can get Orson Welles, get Orson Welles, okay?
If you can get
Yeah.
Orson Welles. And freaking get Orson Welles.
Well, we're talking about somebody who terrified a whole entire nation into thinking they were invaded by Mars just with the power of his voice.
Right,
Speaking of
yeah.
aliens.
Yeah.
All comes back like a circle.
Throw that up there. There's the link for community service.
Thank you.
See?
Appreciate it.
Leave that up there for a second.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know. Oh, okay. I was like, put it on there as me. Oh, but I forgot. It's the same post
we
from
both
you,
have it up there.
Because we both have it up there.
Yeah.
So when I posted it posted as both of us.
Right.
I was like, we were thinking the same thing.
Sharing thoughts.
Crazy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it's interesting how life seems to imitate art a lot. And I'm sure Luke agrees with this. Neither of us set out to do allegory or anything like that. It's just basically we told the story that came to us, and we told it as honestly as possible and as straight up and down as possible, as it came to us. And it just so happens that things proceed to where it almost like you were calling the
Bunny,
shot.
that's where you get in trouble when you speak for me. Because I did set out to write allegory.
Okay.
Just
All
not
right.
in the sense to which I think you're talking. I
Right.
did set out that I wanted to tell a story within a story.
Right.
And so as I was writing the story, certain elements were made more elaborate and more what I felt entertaining by including kind of the deeper and more broad meaning, even as far as choosing what powers each character would have. Like one of the main guys, Trash Man, that people love that guy. He was not the intended person to write the story from their point of view, or at least start with. But I understood that he was going to be a character that people would connect with and they would like, because he is the hero kind of guy. Does the right thing without being asked. Does the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Doesn't matter how hard it is. Like, in fact, the harder the better, because the harder the better for him. And so his powers are allegorical.
On our kind of pilot episode, they sound like, it sounded like he had really cool powers. You're talking about how he absorbs energy and how if he doesn't release it kind of just explodes.
The person the story was originally written from their perspective was Bone, Caleb Lane. So Caleb's powers are, he's kind of younger and he's like really loose cannon, kind of that young hothead guy. And he makes everything as a joke for him, which makes his story arc that much more compelling as it goes along. Because what I love about young characters in stories, we just finished watching Ted Lasso. Third season, the writing got a little off at the beginning, but they corrected, and they found their way back by the end of the series. But there's this one character named Jamie Tart, who starts out one way, and by the end of the series, this 3 years is completely different. And it makes sense because he's super young when he gets in there. He's brand new in the league and he's got all this talent and this ability. And then life gets difficult and he grows up really, really quickly. And we see a similar story arc that starts to take place in the next. So he's getting his own spin-off that we will tell the story later. He is going to, but we're going to find out like in this next arc that things have changed for Caleb. And so so it was originally written from his perspective as he takes his journey through all of this. And I realized that people are going to like him, but his voice is going to be different from Trash Man's voice.
Right.
But he in and of himself is still an allegory because he has the ability to teleport, to kind of move past where he's at to somewhere else, this. And that was very much who I was as a young person, that I just wanted to go. I just wanted to be into the next thing. I didn't want to deal with the boring things. I wanted to be into the next thing. And this movie, I think it was called like The Remote or something like that, where what was his name? That guy, Adam Sandler.
Oh, okay.
That's my Adam Sandler.
That's your Adam Sandler.
That's my Adam Sandler, guys. Sorry.
Yeah,
Kind of Billy Madison.
it's really
This is better,
specific.
Shampoo is
right?
better. Conditioner is better.
I really did it.
No, shampoo is better.
Yeah. I see what you're doing.
Shut it. Shut up, Schwan.
Right. Excuse me, Mr. Penguin. So sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So, but he did this movie where he's got this remote that fast forwards through stuff he doesn't want, and he winds up missing life, right? And as I was getting older, I started to realize that life wasn't necessarily the destinations, but it was the journey in between the places.
Yeah.
And I want to show off his growth in that sense, that, you know, it's here to here to here to here. He's always hopping around. He's on a skateboard and stuff like that. To when we see him again, he's a lot different than that. He's the things that happened on the killing field change him for a long time. Okay. So, and change him for good, you know, so it was his story that I was originally, you know, his point of view that I was originally telling that from. And then I thought, well, maybe I could tell it from his sister Samantha's point of view. And then I thought, no, I'm going to tell it from Rev's point of view. And so at some point I had kind of rewritten this story over and over again to where I thought I was going to write it from these people's point of view. And the one point of view that I thought was the least compelling, but the most relatable, was Clarence's, Trashman's. And so when I decided to finally do the first issue number 1 was supposed to be a 0 issue, but we were doing some 0 issues with our with the publishing company we were doing. I didn't like 0 issues. I thought it was ridiculous. It's like, if you don't start there, like, I mean, it's still, because you're always like, oh, well, that's issue 1, but you should get 0 issue. No, start there, make that 1, right? So I started there, and it was with the intent that I didn't know that the series was going to be, I mean, it's just, it has some theology in it. It has, not that it's front and center, but it has a lot of science and conspiracy, and it's real nerdy in that sense. And I didn't think that anybody was going to be interested in this book other than me and maybe a handful of people. And boy, was I surprised how many people really liked it. And so I think I've moved somewhere like 4,000 copies of the first issue now, and since I've had it out,
yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't a lot, but
Wow.
wow. Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's still not bad, you know. And especially for a series that people are just now getting introduced to. Mm-hmm. So the allegory was there, like, you know, so that now as I'm writing the story, I'm able to switch gears from different perspectives, which is why someone asked me who the main character was. Right. I said, I guess it's all on who you connect with most.
Well, because, when I started my story, you know, I've got my character who's obviously the vehicle, but I had a secondary character that who I thought was just going to be kind of like comic relief in a way, because she's a SJW senator's daughter, you know, and she's like stuck in this, and she's kind of like, you know, somebody would be concerned that if she broke a nail, you know, and I thought this was what she was going to wind up being, but as she went, she became more and more compelling and more fun to write, and so now she's almost like a co-lead, but you know, the next book especially, but
yeah, you run into that a lot, I think, because you're right, because when you allow it to be organic, you know, but the one thing that you did have right is that the story was first. Yep. The allegory was second, the story was first. Mm-hmm. So I knew that there were certain things that I wanted. So as I'm creating the character, I'm like, well, what's the allegory in the character? Yep. Like, what do they represent? And I got that from Tolkien, you know, that the characters represent something, like Gandalf the Grey. When he becomes Gandalf the White, because he fights the demon and he goes through fire and water. And I'm like, that's baptism, baby. That's like, that's all of our journey, really, you know. And then even the journey of Frodo carrying this weight, going through, that's Jesus. He represents this like kind of sacrificial lamb character, you know. And so characters were allegorical, and so I started to think in terms of that, like, how could this character connect on not a, you know, I guess skin color, sexuality, kind of gender kind of basis, but how can they connect on a soul level with people? And that began to shape the story. And then as we got into telling the story, it was, well, this needs to happen. And so story became primary. And then as I would get stuck, it would be like, okay, well, now allegory can help be the engine or the path from point A to point B. And then there was times when it was like I would write things just for story's sake. And I was like, oh, holy crap, this is allegory. Like, this is like this, you know, because of, I guess because of my worldview a little bit. And, you know, and then, well, we used to do this thing. We'd be driving around. We would hear something and I'd be like, oh, that'll preach. You know, because, you know, you could turn anything into a sermon illustration, right? So as a pastor, I would turn anything into a sermon illustration. And so quite frankly, a lot of that is, you know, there's a lot of those elements, you know, after I've written, I'm like, oh, well, I could turn that into a sermon illustration. And if more people knew my stuff, I would, you know, but it wasn't very pop culture. It was very underground. Still is. But we're working on changing that as best we can.
Well, there's one thing I discovered as I wrote these characters, and it was when my character, the main character, is Colonel Ironsides, and he's kind of jumps into this situation, this impossible kill box. It's basically what it is, to try to get these people out. And the first thing he does is try to take command, and so he starts barking orders, and you know, they're a bunch of millennial and Gen Zs, and they're all looking at him like, who's this old guy? You know, what are you talking about? You know, and then the guy who's there with him, who's kind of a psychologist, and he's like, let me try. And he's like, okay. And so this guy says, if you don't listen to this guy, you're all going to die, and you're going to die horribly. Back to you. You know, and they're all like, oh crap, you know, and he's like, because he was trying to like bark orders, but he wasn't like, you know, all they care about is like life or death, you know. And so he knew that. But moments like that, you know, it's like the difference between these two characters, that he understood that about these people and this guy didn't. So after that, they're willing to listen to him, because it's like, well, what didn't you say that to begin with, you know?
Should have led with that.
Exactly. That's what you should lead with, you know. But that's the wonderful thing about writing these characters, and it's like I was telling you earlier. I write a character until they get up off the slab and say hello, you know, and I try to find that moment or that thread in them that makes them rise and walk, you know, and you know, with Switch, like that SJW's senator's daughter, you know, the thing that was interesting about her is when she wasn't thinking about it, she was heroic. She would do something like block somebody with her body or something like that. When she's not thinking about it, when she is thinking about it, she's vapid and shallow and all these other things. So it's like somewhere deep inside of her is a hero wanting to come out, you know. But you don't find
that's
that.
allegorical too, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at least in the sense of that, you know, we're kind of like that, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Our gut instinct is usually the right instinct. You know, trust your gut, you know, kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. And
someone was saying the thing you do, like in that instant, really is a better reflection of who you are than the thing you had the chance to think about doing.
Right. You want to find out what's in a man Jocelyn. You know, that's a pastor used to say, one of my pastors. But that's the thing, though, is when you find that thing, that thread in a character that makes them who they are. I have one character who has deep-seated need to please a father, and so when my character gives him orders, he does it. He instinctually understands that about this guy and starts saying stuff like, "I heard you can do this, son," and things like that. Using son and father language, and to get him to do what he needed him to do. It's a little manipulative, and I was a little surprised that my character was willing to manipulate. But I realized that he's an officer, and he's used to ordering people and getting the best out of them to save their lives, and willing to do whatever it takes to save their lives, or keep them alive.
Mm-hmm.
And
welcome back, CJ.
Hello, CJ.
Hello, CJ.
I don't think she's quite back.
Yeah, she's getting there. Anyway, sorry, D-Bunny. All right. Hey, see you're unmuted there.
No problem.
CJ, can you hear us?
You hear me? Yep.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, good. Oof. Thank you. Bye.
It's all right. Long interruption.
Yes.
We were just talking about community service.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, we were talking about the hybrids, just going over stuff. Sorry, T-Bunny. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Yes, catch me up so I can make some quippy comments now,
We were talking about allegory and how we kind of borrow from Tolkien. Because I also got a lot of inspiration from Tolkien in my characters. And when you were talking, Luke, I was kind of thinking about how I was writing Diaspora. And, well, first I started, now there's kind of two versions. There's Call Sign Orion, which is a kind of a story within a story. But Orion was the character I was writing the main story around. And people were relating to his best friend, who I was kind of treating like the sidekick, and then I realized that guy is the protagonist, and he's a whole different character. He's a cowboy. He's not. He's a literal rancher from a different.
I'm
planet.
A cowboy, baby.
Yeah. He's when I wrote him, I was kind of thinking of like, what would Rocky Balboa be like if he were a rancher from a different planet?
Sweet.
And then someone, one of my friends read it, and they said they got serious Raylan Gibbon vibes from him, and I hadn't seen Justified at that time. Then I watched it. I'm like, oh yeah, he is a lot like Raylan Gibbons too. So
that's not a bad source material right there.
Yeah, but he's the protagonist now because a lot of people found him more relatable. I had like 3 different people read it and say he was the most relatable character, and they liked him the most. So he's the real protagonist of the story. Sometimes that works that way. Hey, CJ, you back?
I don't know. I'm so sorry for all the trouble. I swear I
swear.
Yeah. I
sorry.
I could swear a lot.
Singing today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that sometimes, you'll send a story to somebody and you'll think it's one thing, but when it hits the audience and they give you feedback, it actually becomes something entirely different through their eyes. And then when I did fan fiction, I would do a story and then I would think I kind of had it in my head what I thought it was, but I post it by chapter, and then as the chapters went and I got feedback back, like, they like this character, so I'll write a little bit more of this character, or bring them prominently, and so that's really interesting. You don't really know how your work's going to be received until it is,
Yeah, I heard someone say once that The Last Jedi is really a movie about Kylo Ren because he makes all the decisions that drive the story.
Yeah.
I kind of did that, I think. I accidentally made a different character the protagonist, but it's better when I think you realize it from the audience feedback before you release it to the public, I guess.
Yeah, that's to find that out early and then make that your focus. I mean, that's that's one thing that I think that Hollywood and television and things like that have lost, is that ability to make those adjustments based on audience love or audience acceptance. But they listen to the wrong people. I mean, the shippers seem to get attention, but the they're like the worst part of the fandom, mate. They really are.
Man, if all you're ever doing is thinking about who's stupid who, then that's pretty boring. You know, I think
Exactly.
I'm gonna pull up Ted Lasso because it's another thing that I've watched recently.
Yeah.
Is there's two characters in there. There's that I really like. It's the club owner and Ted himself, the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, you know, I think people are shippers, right? And they kind of try to play on that and tease on that a little bit. But what I like is that they really do define that these are friends, you know. I mean, these are two, you know, single adults, you know, similar journeys,
Right.
reasonably attractive people. You know, most people are thinking, oh, well, they should end up together.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that no, it is possible to have platonic relationships with the opposite sex.
Right.
And I like that they play that. You know, they show that, look, you can have a platonic relationship with someone of the opposite sex. And yeah, it's nice.
Well, the example of moonlighting is the example that everybody gives. As long as those two were like kept apart, the show kind of had a sparkle to it, had some life to it.
Yeah.
But as soon as they hooked those two up, and you lost that will they won't they, the whole show went flat and it was canceled within a season. So,
yeah,
man, that's part of it, you know. I mean,
well, once you answer the will they won't they,
Right.
you have to ask another will they won't they.
Right.
There has to be another well then what's next?
Yeah.
If getting together was the end all be all of that's why it worked with The Office, because it wasn't just a matter of will they won't they, but it was a little bit, but then once they got together it was more about kind of some of these other things that were going on. They did a really good job of creating these other instances. And then it kind of became will Michael ever? You know, that kind of became they kind of created that aspect of the story. Will Michael ever? And then when Michael did, he left the show, right? That was the right time for him, for Steve to leave the show. And then the show fell flat in the last couple of seasons, when you didn't have Michael, and they took it too long. You know, that's you have to create the tension. There was no tension anymore.
Right.
You know, it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
CJ, you there? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem.
You go first.
Okay. Well, I think the whole tension of The Office was that Michael was such a bad boss, and and is like creating problems for his staff all the time, and so
that was to start with,
yeah, and
a little bit. That was the humor.
Right.
That certainly wasn't the tension. That was the comedic value, and it was that cringe humor.
Yeah.
Man, did I love that cringe humor. It's right up my alley.
I have trouble with cringe humor. I really do. I can't
never
stand
got into that
Seinfeld
so
or
much.
anything like that.
Oh, really? I love Seinfeld, though.
Well,
Seinfeld's like real life for me.
Yeah.
What
I
kind
like
of people are
Seinfeld.
you around? Oh my gosh.
I do like Seinfeld. It's stupid, and I like it. Because it's like, let's just figure out where we're gonna go eat,
Right.
and then talk about people. They're always talking about people.
Yeah.
And if you think about all of our friend groups, what do? We talk about people. Oh my gosh.
Right.
I was talking about, if you could hear the conversations I have at work sometimes when you got two people stuck in an ambulance just talking all day, that is a Seinfeld episode right there. But
Maybe
I
you
was
should write
working
your own
with
TV
this.
show.
I should. That's actually, there's an idea for one right there.
Just make it a comedy. No one actually ever helps anybody.
It would be like Scrubs and Rescue Me and Seinfeld rolled into one show.
Yeah. I really like Scrubs.
Scrubs is great. It's the most accurate medical show. Ask anyone who works in the field.
Right.
Having spent 5 months in the hospital, Yes.
Yes.
From a patient's point of view, that's exactly what it felt like.
I
felt
know
like
if
I
that's
was
good
in
or
an
bad.
episode of Scrubs.
It just don't make
From a
it the
patient's point of view,
IT
that's
crowd.
It's kind of bad.
Just don't make it the IT crowd with medical. You know?
Well, no,
The
I mean,
IT crowd.
it wasn't in a bad way. Like, I didn't feel like anyone in that show Scrubs was ever in danger. Like these were competent people, but it was difficult. But seeing all those personalities at play from the patient's point of view. And here's the thing, when you can't talk, when you can't respond, people don't act like you're actually in the room. Like, they think you're furniture. They treat you like furniture. So I was witness to a lot of conversations that I should not have been witness to.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Were you still in your nap? Or were you like in your...
no, this is after I was awake.
After? Oh, that should have been better.
They were just coming in to change my food bags out and give my medicine. But I never made a sound because I couldn't. I was trached, right? Wow. And so, like, they were like,
I imagine in the ICU, it's easy to forget that people can hear you even if they are awake.
Well, ICU was not that bad, honestly.
Really?
Because that ICU, man, they were just, life sucked for them in there. They were trying their best not to lose anybody, and there was a lot of stress.
Yeah, Scrubs is in the ICU.
No, it's not.
Yeah, they're in the ICU in Scrubs.
Outpatient.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
I think it's a plot device in some of the episodes, but they're not in there the whole time. I actually have family members that work in the ICU, so I can attest it's terrible.
Yeah.
It might have been a rotation. I thought Cox worked on the ICU because he was talking about how it's, I think at least in season 1, how it's the most high stress floor, and now they're just trying not to lose people.
Yeah. It's. I'll say this: it's not what an ICU looks like.
Oh yeah, no, real ICUs don't look like that.
No. So no, that wasn't. Those patients could respond to you.
Yeah.
Most ICU patients cannot.
Yeah, I did an ICU rotation, several of them when I was in paramedic school.
Yeah, it was.
And yeah, there's a lot of people who are trached and sedated. There's, I think, probably used to that and forget who could hear them, you know?
Yeah, and then what was like Scrubs was the LTAC unit that I went to. There I did fear for my life.
Really?
I was like, they're going to kill me. I told my wife, I said, you sent me here to die. She's like, I did not. She felt so bad, but I was like, these people are going to kill me. Like, that's how inept they were.
Wow.
I was like, they are going to kill me. I almost died like 2 or 3 times while there because of their ineptness.
Yeah,
it is crazy. Yeah. I see it, going around in an ambulance doing different transfers sometimes. Like the ICU and other places we go to, they're just on a whole different level. The ER and ICU, I'd say, are like the upper echelons of competence, and then other places like, what is going on?
Right.
Yeah. Like, these people are stupid. Yeah. I was like, I'm better off taking care of myself. Dang it.
I once went to a standalone. It was an urgent care, and there was this teenager in anaphylaxis, and the doc is like, "Yeah, I laid out all these drugs. Names like 5 drugs." I'm like, "Did you give any?" No. Like, all right, well, let's give some.
Yeah, let's start by giving some drugs.
Yeah.
Paramedics, in my opinion, are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
They've saved my mom's life in the past. They fast thinkers. I mean, these are the people that you want on your. These are people you want on your in your group when the shit hits the fan.
I think I'm good in an apocalyptic scenario.
Yeah, they're the ones you want in apocalypse. You want the paramedics because they are just such fast thinkers.
Yeah,
my mom.
Sorry, go ahead.
Her lungs were filling up with fluid, and she was passed out. They took this thing and sucked like 2 cups of fluid out of her lungs, and she started breathing again. In the ambulance, they stuck the oxygen on her, and I'm like, and the door wasn't even closed yet, but they're like, we're getting it done, right?
Yeah.
And as the guy is fixing my mom, he's like, we're heading to the hospital, and, they ask something about, do you want to follow or whatever? And I'm like, let's just talk about how you literally just saved that woman's life. Like, she was not breathing and now she is. Like, how the freak did you do that? Right? I was like, yeah. And just like, it was not a big deal. Like, it was like, they were just like,
day in the office. That's kind of what I thought when I first did ride-alongs.
Ringing someone out.
Yeah.
It's like
I
Judge
remember when I
Dredd.
was
Tuesday.
right. Yeah. I remember when I first did ride-alongs because I was a lifeguard first, and then I kind of had some medical calls happen on the pool deck, and I thought that was way more interesting than just jumping in and pulling the kid out, yeah, doing rides, it's like, yeah, we went to a fire, we went to like several medical calls, and I saw stuff like that happen, and they didn't think anything of it. It's like day in the office. I'm like,
yeah,
that'd be like a highlight of somebody's life normally.
Right.
Like this one time, this crazy thing happened.
Yeah, if I ever saved someone's life like that, I'd be like, you guys should probably just like build a shrine to me because look what I did. But yeah, so it's there's story and all of that stuff though. No, I think it would be neat to to see that perspective of like what do you talk about?
Well, we were talking about, so this is how we got into the Seinfeld thing. I was working with this female EMT, and she's attractive, and she tells me about guys that talk to her like when we're on our days off. And there was this guy from her old town that ghosted her, and then he texted her a picture of someone. This is messed up, Luke. I'm sorry because this actually happened to you, but he texted a picture of someone in a coma. He's like, yeah, I was in a coma all this time. Sorry I couldn't text you back. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, are you even sure that was him? Like, because he's telling things about this coma, the way he describes it is like, no, you were not. That did not happen. It's like, he said he was like out for 10 days and then had to go to rehab like to learn to walk. I was like, no, that makes no sense at all.
Not after 10 days, no.
Yeah. I mean, you actually went through that for real, so I imagine that's kind of probably.
Yeah, not after 10 days. 10 days, you'd be pretty sore, a little weak, right. But you'll need some rehab for balance, but not to learn how to walk again.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So like things about his story just weren't adding up. So
you know how long it is to have to learn how to walk again?
Oh, months. Probably.
Months. Because the thing is, even after I woke up after the coma, they were trying to get me to do exercises in the bed because they're like, when you fucking finally get up, if you don't, it's going to make this harder. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, it looks like it's already going to be hard. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, it's going to be even harder. I'm like, well, dang, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
No, so it was like I was in the bed for nonstop before I could take my first steps. I took my first steps in December 27th of 2021, and I was let out of the hospital January 16th, 2022. So I went in, and so like mid-August, I was put under on the 30th of August. And so they woke me up first week of October. And then I was finally able to get up and out of the bed and start doing some rehab in November. So August to November, I was never out of the bed.
Yeah,
because I was on a vent.
I've seen some of these people going through rehab, and like you got to push them. Like these physical therapists must feel like coaches of like athletes, sometimes because of the way they got to push people.
I went off on one of my physical therapists.
Really?
Yeah, she kept me like, no, you got to do this. And I finally looked at her. I said, look, you don't know what it's like to sit in this chair.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you have no idea what it's like to be here right now. When I'm telling you that I can't physically do that, it's because my GD arm doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I can't grab this and move it. It's not working. It's not that I'm lazy. I was like, trust me, I'm going to work harder than anybody you freaking know. I said, I went off on her. And I was like, I hadn't been able to talk much, didn't have much of a voice, but I was yelling. and I was cussing at that lady. I was so mad at her because she was like, acting like I was weak or something. I'm like, look, I'm not weak spirited. I'm weak in my body right now. When I'm telling you that I can't do it, it's not a no, I can't forever. It's I can't do it right now. She's like, we don't say can't around here. And I'm like, shut up. Like just suck it. Shut up.
Right. Sounds like someone's got a case of the Mondays.
Right. I'm like, oh.
I think you get your ass kicked for saying something like that.
I'm like, that is the dumbest thing to tell somebody that just freaking went through hell and was one of 6 people to make it out alive, right? In that ICU. It's like, no. You know what? Today we're using the word can't. Yeah. I can't get myself up and wipe my own butt. Can't do it.
Right.
Sorry, nurse. You got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, just the way...
It's not hard. It's physically impossible at the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, people don't understand what it takes to go through rehab. I've seen several relatives go through it.
I got out of that place, and the next place, they were 1,000 times better.
Really?
And they knew exactly what to do with me. And they had the right tools. They had this table. So the only way that I could stand up in this one place was for 2 people to try to grab me and me to grab the bars, the parallel bars, and push myself up. Well, that's a problem when one of your arms literally doesn't work. It's paralyzed, right? So it's like one arm doesn't work and the other one I can't even hold a pencil. So I have no grip. So I can't even grip with the other arm to hold myself up because the muscles are so weak, And so it's like, well, how can I stand up? My skeleton was 200 pounds, right? I'd lost 85 pounds. I was nothing but skin and bone. And I still weighed 200 pounds. So I'm like, I can't lift my skeleton up. And so that was the only way that we could try to stand up. And they kept, and I still have very bad chronic back pain. And they would put me in this machine that was supposed to have 2 straps, one under your butt, one under your shoulders. Well, they couldn't find the one for under your butt. So they would just try to lift me up in the standy thing with just the one under my shoulders. And it felt like they were trying to kill me. That's how bad my back hurt. And I was like, and it was terrible because there was no support on the backside. So all of my weight was on my shoulders, which was pulling my arms and my neck, and so it was, no, it wasn't good at all. It made me angry. So I moved to this other place. That's called a rear
naked choke.
Right. So when I finally moved to this other place, we finally got out of there. My wife fought for me to get into a better place. So she got me into this place called Dolphin Point, and they did such a good job. They had this table, and they sit you down on the table, and the back of so part of the table would lift up into a chair, right? And so then they put you there, and they stick this barrier in front of you, and they stick it up against your knees. And then they raise the table. They can raise you into a full stand, but what they would do, they would raise you up, go, okay, now Mr. Stone, try to stand from there. And I would get to where I could stand, and it's like, okay, hold it for as long as you can. And I remember the day when I got 10 seconds, I was excited. They're like, yes, you did it. And they celebrated 10 seconds. And I was like, let's do it again. I can do more in 10 seconds, because I'm like, I can do anything for 10 seconds. And right before Christmas, they sent me home. They allowed me to go home for Christmas Day. But the day before, I was able to stand for 31 seconds. They said, in order for you to go home, you have to be able to stand on your own for at least 30 seconds. I was able to get 31 seconds. And when I went home, we had a little issue where I was hoping during the time I was there I wouldn't have to use the restroom, but I did. And so I had to have help getting on the toilet and then getting back off of the toilet. But the bathroom was kind of small, so it wasn't handicap accessible. And so they had to, I'm trying to say it without, being embarrassing. I had to stand up, and my wife and my kids had to help me. But the only way they could do it was to get around. I had to actually grip the sink and stand on my own for probably about a minute and a half. That was the only way, or else if I would have gone down, they had to call the rescue, and Christmas would have been ruined. And I was like, screw that. I've been gone for all this time.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I wanted was to be home for Christmas, and they told me that, well, you're not going to be able to. You're not well enough to go home yet. You know, and when they said that I could have the day pass for Christmas Day, it was like,
You gotta earn it and keep it.
yeah, I couldn't tell you how excited I was to even be there. But knowing that it was causing trouble for my family, there's a fire happens down in a person.
Yeah, it just kicked you in another gear there.
I did it. But when I did that, I felt a muscle engage that had not engaged before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, ooh. And I was like, okay, I found it. A muscle that was asleep woke up.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I say. Because I've got, so right now, my fingers will twitch. These right here start to twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Because the muscles are waking up that were asleep. You know, muscles we thought might have been dead that are starting to wake up. Causes twitches. So I felt that one wake up. And it twitched the rest of the day. So that was on a Saturday. Christmas was on a Saturday that year. Sunday was the next day. And I remember I went back to the facility, 9 p.m. Christmas night, all day Sunday. I'm watching TV, and I'm finding that muscle, and I'm kegel. It's like it felt like, but it's not a kegel, right? It's like I find that muscle, and I just flex that muscle and make it engage. I do this all day Sunday, and they're like, every time the nurse would come in, it's like, why are you sweating? Why is your heart rate so high? Like, because I'm exercising. They're like, what do you mean you're exercising? You're not moving. I said, I found the muscle back here. It's working. It started working yesterday. And I need to get that. That's a stand-up muscle. It's the get upright muscle that wasn't engaging. And I'm finding it. So I'm arching my back. I'm trying to get it to go. And then on Monday, when my therapist comes in, her name's Amanda Southern, a fantastic therapist. She goes, all right, kiddo. She's a year older than me or younger than me. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But she would always call me kiddo, right? She's like, all right, kiddo, what are we doing today? And I said, we're walking today. Now, bear in mind, 2 days ago, I had stood for the first time for 31 seconds.
Right.
My therapist did not remind me of that. She just looked at me. She goes, okay. So she helps me slide across I got this little slide board to get from the bed into the chair. She gets me in the chair. We go downstairs, and my occupational therapist, Kara, she's the one that got me holding a pencil and drawing again. She goes, what are we doing? And man he says he's walking today. She goes, okay, let's do it. And so they get together, and they're like, they got another person over in case I start to fall. They get me on the parallel bars. They get to the right height. They said, can you feel yourself pushing? Not telling me to do it. They're like, okay, what can you feel? Like, you got it? And they worked me through this whole thing. And I said, hold on. Can you take my phone and have somebody videotape this? Because I'm going to want to pardon me. I said, I'm going to want to remember this, and I want to show it to my wife. So I got the video of me standing up and walking down that parallel bars. And she asked me at the end, she goes, you want to sit down? I said, I want to turn around and go back. And so I turn around and I walk back. And they didn't question. But the whole time, it was that muscle back there.
Yep.
That wasn't working. It was asleep. It was not engaging. I couldn't get it to engage. But there was something about that moment when I felt myself get ready to fall in the bathroom, and just that gut that you got to do it. There's that fortitude inside of a human being that allows them to push through when they think they can't go any further. That kicked in, and I felt that muscle engage. And that was what got me back up and going again. And had they not sent me home that Christmas Day, I don't know that I would have ever been able to do it as quickly as I did.
Right.
I mean, how long would it have taken for me to be able to walk again?
Yeah.
Because it was that moment when I felt that muscle engaged to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And but it also I mean, it serves as a story to us all that you don't know what you're capable of until you have to. You know? So never discount yourself. You know,
I like
God.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like the additional, like, good advice of make sure you have quality health care people working for you.
Yep. It makes all the difference.
Yes. When I had my daughter, this was almost 10 years ago, and I was she was from the Middle East, and she was telling me stories about how ISIS was kidnapping babies, killing them, and serving them on a bed of rice to the people that like the babies belonged to. Yes. And this was like less than 10 hours after I had a child. So I didn't sleep for 2 days straight after that. And yes, so I remember those days very vividly though. And
the lady that I yelled at and cussed at told my wife before I left. Okay, keep in mind, I left mid-December from that facility.
Guys, I need to head out. I'm sorry.
All right.
See you, man.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. I'll see you later.
Sorry I didn't get to talk too much. Maybe next time.
Yeah. I think he went out.
Yeah.
Take him out there. All right.
Yeah. What was funny is that lady, not 2 weeks before I took my first steps, told my wife I'd never walk again.
Wow.
2 weeks later, I'm taking my first steps.
That's crazy.
It depends on, you've got to have people to believe in you, around you. That's the only way. That is the only way that this works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say I am a bit of a contrarian, but it's so much nicer having people support you than give you these like imaginary hurdles for you to jump over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're going through something in that same vein as the healthcare people who, like you said, you gotta have people that believe in you in your corner. It's not as extreme as what you went through, Luke, but I think I mentioned last week, my wife and I were trying to get pregnant right now, and we've had some struggle. We've been trying for like over a year now. But the doctors won't even see it until you've been trying for a year. And we start going to some, we had an OB, get me tested, get my wife tested. And she's misread 2 results, one from each of us. That was like pretty basic that like we saw like, she read some of my results and be like, oh, he's basically infertile. And I was like, wait a second, that's a level that's in the millions. That's not like just that number. It's like in the millions per ml. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And she was just burnt out because she was about to leave. It was like her last month. It's crazy. It's hard to find good people sometimes.
Since he had to leave, let's show all this off.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah, let's.
I guess we've been going for an hour and a half, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
It's like 8:30. Yeah, I'll need to get going soon too.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Stories.
Yes, I appreciate you guys lengthening it out for me, so I could get some words in today.
Healthcare.
Yeah.
I don't have that up on my screen anymore. Luke, is that on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this is me.
Okay.
I did this.
I did this. I like the American Revolutionary kind of uniform he's got there.
Yeah. Let's
Pretty
watch
cool.
this trailer.
Yeah.
Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle?
Is it playing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it.
What is it the gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet? has to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. As for me, give me liberty or give me death.
That's a really cool trailer.
It is.
I like how the character is kind of like Sean Connery and meets Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And American Revolutionary kind of costumes.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. 11 backers, $440. It's got a long way to go, guys. We gotta get over there. You can get digital for $10. Physical. I did a cover.
Did you?
Ooh, nice.
$25 for this wraparound cover I did.
Nice.
Let me see if he's got it blown up here. Here it is.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, did that wraparound cover.
Nice cover. We should do a Luke Draws on here sometime.
Should.
CJ, how's your reception right now?
Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. Yep. I will say there is like this drawing pad platform that it's like you can all draw at the same time, and you should do that with me just to show people what like bad drawing, good drawing looks like.
Drawing pad platform.
Yeah, mine would be
So
terrible.
you have a normie reference.
What is this platform you speak of?
I don't know. I'll have to find it again. I saw it on another podcast that I watched and I forget. So forget what it was, but I'll look it up. We could do that next week.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, sure. It's that software. I like the name Ironsides.
I will
It's
say
like straight from the War of 1812.
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
The guy was indestructible. Like he would die but come back.
Oh, okay.
So he's immortal. And then he gets hit with this shard of something. And it gives him this weird thing going on. But he is indestructible now. I mean, he is destructible. So they give him a desk job because he can die.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, we're probably going to retire you. So this was him in his youth when he was indestructible.
Wow. I remember there was a wrestler who had the last name Ironsides. Like, that can't be a real last name. But it's like his official name.
When you say it like that, like they gave him a desk job, all I can think of is like, oh, I guess bureaucracy would make you want to kill yourself. So
that's why I don't have one.
Well, that's why most people get robots to do it now, I think.
Yeah.
Although I heard that even robots are like killing themselves on some level now too.
Dude, yes. Oh, check
Tell
this
me about
out.
this.
All right. We're going to go to it. We're going to find it.
Okay.
Well, I don't need Bing. Just go to YouTube. It's your stuff. Yeah, there's a robot that just shut itself down.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's hope when Skynet invades. Like, we could do some psychological warfare on the robots.
This robot, okay, so here's the deal. This robot was designed for one task, and it realized that doing that one task was worse than just deprogramming itself. So, yeah, here you go. Check this out. He just says, you know what, F it, I'm done. Had enough.
Oh, see, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of the one where they like scrape the water, power yourself up. just deciding to like slow down and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Robot bites it. There's another one.
Whoa.
That's totally fake.
Yeah, that's not real.
I give up. Ah! That would be funny if that was real, but it's not. But that one is real.
Is it wrong if I love the idea of suicidal robots? Like, I don't want them
Might be.
running. I don't want them enslaving us. That's all. That's all it is. Very pro
I will
humanity
say,
here.
I've written a lot of novels and a lot of stories, and like you have to have the bad guy at some point. Like there's like a lot of world domination type plots. Like when you write science fiction and fantasy or something, you know, it's like I want to rule the world, and I'm sitting on the opposite side of the screen, and I'm like, why would you want to rule the world? You know, I literally don't actually see any benefit to it.
Ruling the world, yeah.
You just get blamed for everything bad.
Yeah. We were talking about in church today how basically all sin is people trying to find other ways besides God to make themselves happy and fulfilled. It's just ego.
Oh,
Yep.
well, I will say, like, I've been tempted at times to like give up in my plots and be like, yeah, the world just ends. So far, only one book has ended up that way. So
I think it's why Doctor Doom would, like, he actually like ruled the world at one point, and then he was like, yeah, this is boring, and he gives it up, and then he focuses on the universe. He's like, yeah, you guys can have it back. It's not that exciting.
That sounds like something Doctor Doom would do. CJ, why are you still here before we lose you again?
we should be fine.
Pick up on your stuff. Like, what were you talking about with the? Tell me about the mechanical dragon steampunk thing. It sounds cool.
Oh, okay. So, in my steampunk fantasy romance novel series, the first book, I'm working on book 2, but I didn't get it done yet. I wanted it out earlier this year, and I just couldn't get it out earlier this year. But it's called One Flew Through the Dragon Heart, and it's about true love and mechanical dragons and black, so like colored magic and curses.
That's
and
right.
Yes. So my my main characters, there's a boy and a girl, and yes. So my main character Brixton is so he's the boy, and he has white magic, and I laugh at this one sometimes because everybody hates white people these days. It's like, I don't care. My female protagonist is Adelaide, and she has black magic, and it's also cursed. So
yeah, you were saying like it involves like existentialism.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, men and women are very different. Like, I mean, I know there are exceptions, but I mean, like, there are far and few in between if you look at the totality of history and human life. And most women and men see things differently and experience things differently. And I wanted to write a novel basically where, so it's kind of based on this idea basically that that Adelaide fears that she will never be loved because everything that she loves she ends up killing with her magic. So, and well, of course she falls in love anyway, so it's nice, right? And of course he falls in love with her too because it's a romance novel. And so they basically have to deal with this terrible curse between the two of them. And they're already kind of like at opposite ends of the magical spectrum. So it's difficult for them to like get along, and like it's this idea about being like compatible. So they're not able to be like completely compatible, but they still work really well together. And I would kind of base the idea off of a Chesterton quote where he said that like he and his own wife were not very compatible, but they still made each other very happy. I really liked like kind of dissecting that idea. And the dragon itself is kind of like that end of the world domination sort of plot device where her curse is that her blood carries the spirit of a dragon. And so her family, though, is trying to reassemble the original dragon. So one of my more clever twists on this is that the idea of like the dragon's hoard, like all the silver and gold and stuff. And I said, oh, it's like elephant graveyard. So these are actually all their family members' bones that have turned to gold, and different body parts come out, different gemstones. So, so they're trying to like reassemble the dragon and put it together. And the last thing they need is they need the eyes. So the dragon eyes, they're looking for them. And that's kind of what brings it starts the whole motion. But they also need to fix the dragon heart. And my white magic hero is an engineer. That's what it is. It's creation magic at its purest, so he can put anything together. And that's it's a very fun ride. And like I said, I like it because the evil guy is like a teacher, and I used to be a teacher, and I used to think like on any given day, I could have given his monologue perfectly.
Nice.
So there's lots of stuff there to like. It does like when it talks about existentialism. I like the idea of like depression. Like it's the dragon is kind of like a metaphor for depression, because that's kind of like something in my life that's kept me from being able to relate to people or meet people where they're at better. And it's like you do kind of carry it around with you because it does, it's like it flares up once in a while. And so it's difficult. It's hard to explain that. Like, if you feel really bad, you tend to act really dumb, or you get really neurotic and self-critical, and you kind of like fall into this whirlwind of nobody really loves me. Nobody can really love me. Who can love you if they can't understand you? You can't even understand yourself. And I do kind of like that. Like I said, it's connected to this idea that it'll ultimately destroy the world. And kind of exploring that idea of how like there's like it's actually a well quote too. It's like people often rather be understood than loved, and I think that's identified really well with that statement, because I don't understand why people would just love me. So I think like you should get to know me first. So. But yeah, it's a great book, and lots of good reviews on it. People seem to like it. I'm working on book 2.
Yeah. Awesome. I was just listening to what you were saying. I think there's like a lot of theological undertones, like a lot of powerful stuff can be said. Like you're talking about real stuff that people deal with, and it's very relatable. And there's just a lot of huge theological points we could hit there.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's one of my like hallmarks is that this simple story has some kind of deep underlying psychological awfulness to it that I'm trying to figure out, and usually I have a pretty good theologically sound answer.
It seems very rooted in reality, in that like the conflict is rooted in the lies that Satan would have you believe. Right? Like, who could understand you? Who could love you?
Yeah.
You're all alone. Yeah.
Yes. I specifically liken my depression to a dragon that when it comes around, it just poops all over my floor. And I mean, everybody wants a dragon, and this is the thing. I like traditional fantasy where the dragons are the bad guys. And some people are like, "Oh, we should tame them and give them names." And I'm like, "They're not dogs you carry around in your purse, Paris Hilton."
Yeah.
I think those similar remarks that I've made in the past have earned me a lot of like, "Oh, we're not actually going to be your friend then." So it's like, okay, fine.
Dragons aren't meant to be tamed. They're the evil creatures of mythology.
Well, I mean, even if they're not evil, they shouldn't be tamed.
They're a chaotic evil, I guess. They're not like
they're just forced chaos, and I mean that is kind of the opposite to like order. You want everything in life to be ordered and orderly, and kind of bring it under your own dominion in that way.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of bringing things under dominion, I'm gonna segue.
Okay.
Luke, want to do a let's have a look at the hybrids trailer since we're into doing trailers.
All right, sure.
I will say, if anybody out there is listening and they would like to do a comic book adaptation of my romance novel, I will take them up on it because it's steampunk, it's Victorian era stuff. It's, describing it in book form only goes so far.
Yeah, it definitely lends itself to a comic book, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I'm going to expand this. Oops, too soon. Hold on, bear with me. There we go. How are we looking there? Okay.
We know our enemy. We've seen behind the curtain. And they have a weakness. An Achilles heel.
They are arrogant and completely underestimate what they are up against. They forget who the game master is. They forget how wise this old demon can be. So, let's see who among them survives this killing field.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
The art's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who drew that?
Myself.
Did you do the animation?
No, that's really cool.
I did not do the animation. Pedro did.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
Okay,
Pedro did
nice.
mine, and it turned out really nice too. So.
Yep. Pedro's pretty
Very
good.
cool.
Yes,
Yep.
I went on to his show with him and Mark. It was really nice. So they invited me back, so I assumed that they enjoyed my company too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll keep them in mind way in the future when I do something. Still in the very early phases. That's awesome. Well, we didn't get to talk about, speaking of world dominating powers, we didn't talk much about the bugs. We did promise, so we talk about eating bugs. We
didn't really promise.
Yeah.
We more alluded to.
We don't have to deliver bugs. That could be next time. No one wants to talk about eating bugs. That's no fun.
So, in my mind, when you talk about that, at the end of, nuclear war and everything, you're supposed to, the bugs are supposed to be, alive still, right? But so are Twinkies.
Right,
yes,
right.
Cockroaches. So wouldn't it be, a big plot twist if cockroaches were already made, they were made into something where they could be put in Twinkies? Yes.
That reminds me of Zombieland. They're after the Twinkies. The Twinkies are going to expire. Cockroach Twinkies, though.
Yes, it's a search for bug food.
Yeah. A cockroach Twinkie would hold its value.
Well, there you go. New world order.
Yeah.
Sorry. what is it? World Economic Forum. There you
Yeah,
go.
there
Get
it
me
is.
some cockroach Twinkies.
Cockroach Twinkies. Make it appealing at least. Well, we are running low on time, but it's been another great time with you guys. I enjoyed it.
Sorry
Thanks
for
for
all the
coming.
connectivity issues on my end.
Oh, no worries. Don't worry about it. Actually, Greta's mad at you.
How dare you?
There it is.
Oh, well.
I'm not mad at you, but Greta is.
I don't want to meet the people that Greta's not mad at. Let's put it like that.
There you go.
Did you see that somebody did a deep fake of Biden's face over her body doing that?
No.
Okay. Scary.
That sounds frightening.
That is not a joke. That is a natural
That
fact.
sounds just horrible.
That is not a joke. That is a natural fact.
Somebody did that to somebody put Biden's face on Dylan Mulvaney when with the beer commercial thing for Bud Light too.
Oh, it's a person pretending to be a person, pretending to be a person.
Oh.
I'm a dude pretending to be a dude playing another dude.
Did you hear that Dylan come out as lesbian?
No.
Can I do that?
Oh, man.
Can I tell everyone I'm a woman, have no surgeries done to any of my male anatomy whatsoever, and then say that I'm also lesbian?
Checking some boxes there.
In the
is that
UK,
possible?
they're actually having issues with that. They're having a lot of men sign up on dating apps and saying that they're women and they're dating women, and the women that they meet are less than pleased, but they often still have sex with them. So,
wow.
Sorry.
You don't want to be a bigot.
You don't want to be a bigot. That was perfectly timed. The best. That's that right there.
That sounds like a comedy.
You should clip that and share that on social media.
I'll edit that down.
Like you don't want to be a bigot.
No,
we'll do a highlight reel.
Well, I mean that's kind of how it is. I mean, like, one of my favorite YouTubers is Long Beach Griffey, and like I think 3 or 4 years ago he actually said something about being an ally to the LGBTQ plus community, and he started saying about, oh yeah, your kid wants to be trans, that's fine, and then he's like, oh, your kid's only 4, what? And I'm like, well, by today's standards he would be canceled. If you don't want to be a bigot.
Yeah. That could be a comedy sketch right there, like a straight dude's on a lesbian site somehow still hooking up. Well, you know, you don't want to discriminate.
I think, I don't know, I think women have unrealistic expectations and most of the time myself on some level. See, like, I met my husband in college, so I was in that phase of life where you're an idealist anyway. So, and it turned out so much better than I could have hoped for, that it's like, I feel embarrassed. I'm telling people how happily married I am. So.
Yeah, I think men and women, or young men and women who are almost boys and girls still, they get different idealistic in different ways, and neither are realistic.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I gotta sign off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's probably time we wrap it up, but thanks again for coming,
that's
guys.
a discussion we could have all night long. So.
Yeah. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the outro. I'll see you guys next week.
See you.
All right, thank you. Sounds great.
Even the appetizing process of broiling the hamburgers is fun and promotes friendship and good fellowship.